Well, there's one thing that I disagree with the last thing that you said is
go
that
ahead.
no, this is going to be really bad. I think Nick Saban's harvesting child organs, so I don't think he's ever going to retire. He's creating a thing called adrenochrome, if you ever heard of it. And
Sitting
Nick,
there with Hillary Clinton just sucking a baby.
you brought up True Blood. He's that. So and so he's going to be around forever. Unfortunately. Okay, welcome to RC Sports. This is the first episode of RC Sports. RC Sports is in the game is a phrase I just came up with. That's what we're going to work on trademarking. It's going to be a long, arduous path. Not sure why, but we're going to get it done. I am here. This is a special episode. We're going to talk about college football today. And I have, let's call him AJ. I have AJ here with us, SEC veteran. We could say that.
Yes,
thank you for your service. And why don't you just go into your background, because we are going to talk about college athletes getting paid, and we're going to talk about a little conference realignment. But go into your background and why should anyone give a shit what you have to say? How about that?
So yeah, you got it. So I grew up in Arkansas, played football in Arkansas, played for the Hogs, Woo Pig, for a little while, and played under BMFP, or as they know him, Bobby Petrino, Bobby Backstabbing Petrino, whatever you want to call him.
I'm sorry, he's a legend. He's a legend.
Hey, we didn't come here to paint.
The motorcycle one. It's unbelievable.
Shit.
Unbelievable.
Dude, we know all about that. If you have any questions about that entire saga, I will tell anyone this right now. That fucking media lied to y'all. I'm sorry. That was not a motorcycle accident. That was an ass whipping.
Oh, so he got caught.
Yeah, so a little bit of backstory on that. He hired his mistress from the volleyball team, Jessica, right? So Jessica goes on to be hired in the athletic department, and anyway, she was engaged at the time. I believe his name was Justin. Was the guy's name? Mm-hmm. And anyway, he caught wind of it. It was April Fool's Day, April Fool's on the Razorbacks, and anyway, he caught him out on a highway ride and whipped his ass with a 2x4 is what happened. Caught him.
I picture it like Raising Arizona, like when the guy's driving Randall, Tex Cobb's driving down with the motorcycle, just shooting everything inside. And he finally finds Bobby Petrino.
Just found his ass. Well, and the funny part is that there was a state trooper with him, because as a coach, you're always followed by a state trooper.
Secret Service, damn near.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, when you're paying an SEC head coach an upwards of $4 to $8 million a season, that's an investment, and they got to
make more than the government. You make more than the people who actually run the state. Yeah.
You kidding me? You want to talk about Nick Saban pushing $11 million right now a year, not even including his excess endorsements?
Yeah.
Pay those players. Pay them. God damn it.
And I'm sorry. Anyways, you're more on your background. Bobby Petrino, it was like a dog whistle, and my ears perked up. But go ahead.
No, you're good. Played in the SEC for my freshman and sophomore years. I was a gray shirt freshman, then a red shirt freshman, and then I left playing football. Ended up playing lacrosse and football at another division that I will not, in another conference, that I will not talk about.
A lesser one though.
A lesser conference. They call themselves a big conference, but I wouldn't necessarily keep it that way.
They like to not have a passing game to this conference. They like to just run the ball and punt it all the time, and then put like their entire offensive lines in the NFL. That's all. Yeah.
To quote one of their former coaches, if you don't play with a fullback, we're going to stand up and kick your ass. Well, that didn't work too well with him when he went to Arkansas, but that's neither here nor there.
And nobody has any idea what we're talking about. Hey,
no clue.
Anyways, we're talking SEC today. SEC, you're an SEC. Sir. I would say an SEC expert because you know a lot more than I do, but
been through it.
And speaking of Arkansas, I just have to say, I told you this in the DMs, but as a Raider fan, Darren McFadden was my guy. He was People are young. There's a lot of people are young. I keep forgetting how long ago Darren McFadden was drafted. I think he was the '08 draft. So that
Yeah.
means he was probably like '05 in college, probably when he first got
Oh
to.
five, oh six, and oh seven.
Sure.
He was there with that tandem at Arkansas when you had Peyton Hillis, Darren McFadden, and Felix Jones.
The best.
And
Oh
all
my
three of
God.
those bastards got drafted, I believe, in the first 3 rounds.
And I believe all three had 1,000-yard seasons in the NFL.
Yes, they did.
So people talk about Clinton Portis and like Gore at Miami and stuff. I'm sorry, that's a better three-piece.
Oh, yeah.
You have three-piece. Yeah.
You're talking about 3 pieces, and it's weird how Arkansas did that specifically between 2 coaching staffs.
Yeah.
Right? Because you had Peyton Hillis, Darren McFadden. And I use Peyton Hillis first because I think Peyton Hillis is a better overall long-term story in the NFL.
Sure.
Right? D-Mac was kind of a short-stunted because he suffered injuries, things like that. Unfortunately,
he was built different, but in a bad way.
He was built different, unfortunately.
There was an unfortunate when he got to the Raiders. I was very excited. I was like, oh my God, like this guy's a monster. What do you like? I love him. And to be fair, even in the NFL, once he got past the line of scrimmage, untackle, you couldn't touch him. Like he was like unbelievable. If you got to the second level, bye. But there was a picture of him on the Raiders doing the leg press in minicamp, and that guy's legs, I swear to God, were like little chops, well, no, his thighs were, but his like calves were like I mean, he was like 6'3". He was a very tall running back, very tall, skinny,
huge running back,
tall, skinny running back, and like it would show up because he'd always get tripped at the line of scrimmage or go 65 to the house. Like it was unbelievable.
There's no in between. There's never an in between. And like at Arkansas, you had like Peyton Hillis, who was the big fullback, corn-fed white boy from Little Rock or Conway. Excuse me, I think he was from Conway.
Beast.
And then you had D-Mac from the 501 boy.
Nice.
And then not Peyton Hills, Felix Jones. I don't remember where Felix was from. I know he ended up playing for the Cowboys for a few years. But all 3 of them had incredible running back seasons at Arkansas, at fullback as well. Just call them RB, right? They were used as RBs. And then you move on to the Petrino years, and you somehow ended up with this incredible tandem of wide receivers from Houston coming to Arkansas, where you had Jarius Wright, Greg Charles, and Joe Adams. And Joe Adams had the greatest punt return in the history of college football. I mean,
was that the one where you reversed field like a million times? Was that?
Yeah.
I remember that one.
All 11 men on the field tried tackling
his
ass. He dodged all 11 of them, took it to the house on a punt return. I was on the sideline, and it was something, let me tell you.
Nice. Oh, and just so we're clear, Felix Jones, Tulsa, Oklahoma guy.
Tulsa. Okay. Gotcha.
Booker T. Washington High School. Jerry Jones loved him because he's a Razorback. So he said, "Give me my guy." And so with the SEC now, let's jump right. Well, actually, before we jump into the players getting paid, Texas and Oklahoma realigning, going to the SEC. And like I said, they're not honoring their TV deals. I don't think they're honoring any of that stuff. They said, screw it, we're packing our bags. So yeah, your thoughts on that? That's crazy.
So number one, I welcome it because as an Arkansas guy who lives near Austin now, right? Like I'm in the heart of Texas, and I live right where the Longhorns are. Hook 'em. And I've actually like picked up the Longhorns as like my secondary team now in a lot of ways. Like, not ever against the Razorbacks. That will never happen.
No.
But I welcome it. And I think it's going to be great for the sport in some ways, not so great for other universities in the Big 12.
No.
But what's crazy is my understanding is that this deal has been going on for anywhere from 6 months to a year, right? And Texas A&M leaked it to force their hand is what happened. So that's why the first article that broke it on Wednesday morning, I think it was, came from the Houston Chronicle. The guy that leaked the article, he's a former Texas A&M staffer and a beat writer for Texas A&M now. And so they leaked it to kind of force OU and Texas's hand a little bit because they weren't comfortable having their, shall we say, big brothers in their former conference coming in to now, use and abuse them. From what they see.
You think that's going to happen?
I don't think Texas A&M is going to play Texas and OU.
That sucks, but yeah.
I think they'll play Texas, but I don't think they're going to play OU. I'm going to go ahead and take my hat off, by the way. This thing's getting a little ridiculous on my head.
There you go.
I don't think that they'll play OU, except maybe on a rotational basis. At all. I think the pod system is going to happen, and I think we're going to see a bit of a semifinal kind of working to it. I just don't see the SEC doing 2 divisions of 8 teams. That's too much. And I don't see OU and Texas abiding by that, because if you're Oklahoma and you're saying, okay, we got to get to the SEC championship now, I've got to play Texas, Arkansas, a resurgent Arkansas, a resurgent Ole Miss. LSU is still going to be LSU,
Sure.
whatever the NCAA does with them. If they're going to do anything to them, we'll see. Mississippi State, we'll see. I mean, I don't think Mike Leach is going to do it. That's a different story.
Yeah, that way he bit off way more than he could chew going over there.
Wait, no, he should have stayed at Wazoo. But
yes, he was electric at Wazoo. I loved him
absolutely.
out there. Yeah, he was amazing.
Mike Leach requires a specific kind of school.
Yeah.
And the problem for Mike Leach is, number one, recruiting in the SEC West is not the Pac-12.
Yes.
No.
And then a schematic thing with Mike Leach is, I was listening to a podcast with I think it was Sam Monson from PFF was saying, and he had a guy on, Seth Galino, who's a quarterback guy, and he was saying that the air raid one is not like a new thing anymore. Defense is it's pretty much like Tampa 2, where like you find out there are proven methods to beat the Tampa 2. The air raid requires a lot of, like, if you look at what the Arizona Cardinals run in the NFL, they're like one of the only teams that don't move their wide receivers around. So like the SEC, dude, you can't run bubble screens anymore agast the SEC teams.
No.
Like these linebackers are not 260 anymore. The SEC, these guys are like 210 playing linebacker.
I mean, you're talking guys my size, right? I mean, you're talking 6'2", 210, 220 linebackers, which I played defense. So like I was in the early onset of that in the early 2010s before it became like, because we were starting to have to play against the spread at that time, that hurry up Oregon type offense. And when you look at the air raid, it doesn't work in the SEC for the same reason that a jet sweep does not work in the SEC. We're too smart. You're too slow. That's it. When they talk about SEC speed, nobody means fucking offenses, right? Because like the offenses are going to be the offenses. They've always been the same speed. If you take, for instance, Ole Miss under Hugh Freeze, their first year, 2013,
right.
Ole Miss was running an offense at a Tampa 1, Tampa 3. They weren't running a Tampa 2, right? So they were running a hurry up, no huddle offense. They were actually faster than Oregon at that time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're talking, your average 4 down territory was done in less than 8 seconds of gameplay. I mean, shit. Oregon was, Oregon's running, a 2-minute offense nonstop for 60 minutes. Yeah, there's a whole lot of stoppage on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the Arizona Wildcats safety can't handle your offense. Yeah, that means it's novel and new and awesome.
Exactly. Well, it was the same reason that Arkansas was so successful back in 2005 and 6. Whenever they first started running the Wild Hog offense, and Gus Malzahn introduced this high school concept to college, and saying, "Hey, we can do a direct snap to a running back that's 6'3", Darren McFadden." And good fucking luck. And I mean, but now defenses have figured it out. Same reason why jet sweep doesn't work, but much to the point. For Texas and OU coming in, you would take Oklahoma as an example and saying, okay, we've got to play. If there was an 8-team division, you're looking at having to play Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Texas A&M just to get to the SEC championship. No thanks. Not while the East has got Kentucky and Vanderbilt, South Carolina, Missouri. I mean, Missouri is going to be, we'll see with what Elijah, I think last year was a misnomer for Elijah Drinkwitz coming in. I think his recruiting classes are going to show that he ain't worth 2 shits. But that's my view. But if you're OU, you would never accept that moving into the SEC. There's no way.
Yeah.
And if you're Texas or really Arkansas or any of them, there's no reason to. That's too stacked of a division. It's the same reason when they switch over to this new pod system, there's going to be no way that Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and Auburn are all in the same division.
No.
They're going to be separate pods. There's just no way.
Has to
Can't do it.
Yeah, because who wants to watch Vanderbilt versus like Missouri? You know what I mean? Like those two, you're going to want to have that marquee. Like CBS is going to be like, yeah, you want me to air this? And that's what I mean. Unless me like a gambler, I'm going to watch it. But but I have a question. So we obviously know why Texas and Oklahoma are doing this, right? They don't even, Big 12 didn't really even have a network, like a solid network. They're on Fox here and there, ESPN here and there. The big matchups go on there. But like we understand that it's clearly a financial incentive. Now, is there a part of Texas, because there was a long time where A&M was basically like cucking Texas on recruits. Was basically just, I'll take this guy. Yeah, Mike Evans.
Yeah.
How is Mike Evans not a Texas Longhorn? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that? You know, even Manziel. Like, how is Manziel not a Texas quarterback? You know what I mean?
Consider the fact that he's got a Texas Longhorn tattoo under his titty.
Yeah. How does that not happen? So now, is this going to be one of those things? Like, look, we have to get. We're SEC now. You're going to be on the big stage, CBS every weekend or whatever, and like that's got to be why, right?
So I think that kind of, I'm going to answer your question in two stages. I think that's part of the reason that Texas A&M was the sole vote. Now, my understanding is, and don't quote me on this, but I believe the vote has already happened.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
the vote's already happened. It was 13-1 from what I heard.
Mm-hmm.
I got a buddy that works in Atlanta. That's what he was telling me. It was 13-1. It was done during SEC media days while Elijah Drinkwitz was talking. Funny enough, they went ahead and just did the vote.
Like,
and
anyway,
Texas,
shut up, guy. Yeah, all right.
Oh, Missouri, Big Ten team in the SEC. Fuck off. And so sorry for my cursing, y'all.
Please curse. Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
So
we'll pull like I told you on Twitter. I'll just put on the SMU head here in a little bit and scream, fuck it. So but no, Texas A&M was courting Arkansas, Missouri, and I believe South Carolina to vote no. Because, and the reason why it makes sense, because if you're South Carolina, the inevitability of Clemson potentially joining the SEC with NIL, which we'll talk about here in a minute, is huge, right? That's huge because if Clemson gets in, South Kakalaki's done. The Gamecock is roasted at that point.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's going to happen because I think the ACC is going to end up picking up a couple more teams and moving to their own super conference. I foresee a 64-team pod system where there's going to be 4 groups of 16 teams. That's how that's going to shake out eventually.
So my Irish are going to be in the ACC, is what you're telling me?
Yeah, because the Big Ten's not going to put them in because the Big Ten's going to pick up Iowa State and Kansas. Yeah. So the vote went through 13-1. And that was part of I think that all had to be the agreement. Now, the other reason that Texas A&M didn't want to do that is, and I'm using Arkansas as the example because, well, that's where I come from. But when I look at the way the recruiting worked for Texas A&M, they were cucking the shit out of 4 schools when they joined the SEC. Hard. I mean, you're talking about Texas. They were taking Texas boys left and right. No question about that. And if you notice, they were doing it to Oklahoma as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hard at the beginning, especially. And then they did it to Arkansas because all of a sudden Arkansas's recruiting advantage in the SEC was, hey, we're in the SEC and we're basically Texas North at that point. Y'all come on in from Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, Waco, places like that. And all of a sudden Texas A&M comes in and says, we're also at the SEC now. And they're able to capitalize on the Houston markets like crazy, but also getting those Dallas and Central Texas boys and a few West Texas boys as well that were going to places like Texas Tech and TCU, things like that. So the reason that Texas A&M did not want Texas and OU joining is, it's going to level the playing field for them. And I think the direct opposite is the reason why Arkansas voted them in, because all of a sudden, if you're Arkansas as a specific example, right? OU and Texas coming in. Well, number one, Arkansas has suffered since joining the SEC because they have not had a true rivalry. There's LSU and there's Ole Miss, and the Texas A&M thing. And this is to all the Aggies out there that will ever listen to this. Fuck you. You will never be our rival at Arkansas. Good luck playing. What's our record again? Oh, well, you've won 9 straight. That's great. This is just me as a person here for a moment. It does suck, but do remember you still have to win 17 more in a row just to tie the all-time series. Woo pig.
That's a rivalry between a hammer and a nail right there.
Well, and I think that, well, give it, now that Texas and OU are back, I think Arkansas is going to see a resurgence, especially with their coaching staff and things like that. But like I was saying, the reason that these other schools went, piss off A&M, is because you're going to see OU and Texas coming in. That's going to re-level the playing field, right, for recruiting advantages. And Texas and OU are still going to pick up their 5 stars that they were supposed to be getting in the first place. But you're going to see schools like LSU, Missouri, Arkansas, and really Ole Miss that always had a little bit of a Texas area in them, just a hair bit, that are now going to be able to come into places like the suburbs of Houston, the Woodland, places like that. I mean, if you look at Arkansas as an example, I talked earlier about the 3 wide receivers tandem. right? Yeah, Jarius Wright, Greg Charles, Joe Adams. I think Kobe Hamilton also came from there as well. Don't quote me on that. I'll Google it here in a minute. But they all came from Missouri City, Texas. That was a hotbed. Nile Davis did as well, by the way, Boobie Nile, who was a great running back in his own respect for one season. But that one season was fire.
Yeah.
Hey, 6 games and you ran 1,000 yards.
Crazy. That's like Lawrence Phillips numbers, like for Nebraska in the 90s. Like,
6 games. I mean, you show up on mid-season and you're running 212 yards against South Carolina against Jadeveon Clowney's freshman season. Come on,
insane.
It was insane. But you look at those, and I have to use Arkansas as my base here. But when you look at the recruits at that time, they were coming from these places. Missouri City, Texas, Arlington. You had parts of right outside of Waco and Temple, places like that. That's where Arkansas was pulling these recruits from, and so were LSU, so were Ole Miss, Missouri, even Texas A&M came in and dominated, and were cucking the shit out of these schools on recruits because all of a sudden you get to stay home and you get to see your mom on the weekends and play against Alabama.
Right?
How does that sound to you?
Yeah, exactly.
And shit, they came in and were dominating.
Yeah.
And now that OU and Texas are in, that's going to go to the wayside. I think Texas A&M is going to be relegated back to where they were in the Big 12, which is being 4th string in the Central American portion of Texas, OU, Arkansas. Texas A&M always was that kind of 4th string to those 3 schools. I think they're going to go back to that.
Yeah. I agree with you there. Now, Oklahoma, my qualm with Oklahoma, they're too soft for the SEC. Like, you have to completely
maybe.
Like, what is Lincoln Riley gonna start getting tough guys? Like, that's just not what he runs. Like, they have these like tiny, like 197 pound like edge rushers like that stand up. And I'm like, what? Every time I see them, like I bet against them 2 years ago when they played at Kansas State. And I was like, Kansas State's going to win this game. The game's going to go over just simply by that. They were getting shoved around. And it's like, I'm sorry. I'm not that. Yeah, look, maybe they caught him on the wrong day, right? Okay, cool. But every time I see Oklahoma,
because Kansas State lost Arkansas State that season. That's a barely FBS opponent.
I know. That's what I mean. I'm saying they caught Oklahoma. Like maybe it was just a bad day for Oklahoma is what I mean.
Gotcha.
So because Kansas State wasn't that great, but I just something about that stadium. I was like, something's going to happen. I'll take the over. And I had the money line on a separate. And so I took that. And I just every time I see Oklahoma, and it's a problem with my Irish too, is the same way. Like it's just we're good enough, and like I think we're a top 10 school perennially, but like come on, man. Like
there's a certain break. I mean,
you have to I'm saying you have to completely retool how you recruit. Like, and I'm not saying that's all I'm saying. Like, and like even cool. Get your Spencer Rattlers, get your Kyler Murrays. Those guys will be fine. I still think those guys will be fine. But it's the like. Maybe not so much the offensive line because Oklahoma turns out good offensive linemen, but like just their defense.
It's really the defense. It's
Alabama can put up numbers on you. Like they can score now. You know what I'm saying? I know they're not. Maybe they're not going to play them. Who knows? But like, these schools can put numbers on you. They have speed like you do. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, you're talking about guys that are running. Dante Hightower is an example I like to use because Dante, when we were playing in the same set, right? I wasn't a starter by any means. I was like 3rd string, right? Because I'm a meat and potatoes boy from North Central Arkansas.
Sure.
But I mean, you're talking about Dante Hightower. That son of a bitch is 6'4", running a 40 in 4.9.
Psychotic. Yeah,
it's psychotic.
Yeah,
I wouldn't want to get hit by him, and I don't blame anybody else. No, it's a freight train. But when I look at like Oklahoma, great that you use that example because OU, they're soft on defense. Sure. Yeah, their corners are not going to be where they need to be, especially in the first couple of seasons. We'll see what Lincoln Riley can do with recruiting. I think the recruiting is going to pick up, though, in an unlikely area, Kansas City.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting.
Because Kansas is still going to be Kansas when they go to the Big Ten. They're a shooty hoop school. Nobody gives a shit about Kansas football. And they lost Les Miles and Jeff Long for a reason. Fuck you, Jeff Long. And...
He's an avid listener, so he's gonna I mean, saying, be ready for certain magazine letters cut out with your address on it. I'm just saying,
come at me, Jeff. Come at me, Jeffy. Yeah. So I think Kansas City market is going to be huge for football because when you look at Kansas moving to the Big Ten, right? Football players from that area are not going to go play in Nebraska or Iowa. They're not going to give a shit because the SEC is going to be fully open. Well, where are they going to go? They're going to go. You got a choice. You're going to go to Missouri when you grew up in the Kansas City market? Hell no. They hate
Damn.
Mizzou there. They hate Mizzou there. I mean, you're talking about Jayhawks country, but they're not going to go to the Jayhawks because why would you?
Yeah,
You're not a
no.
basketball player, so you're going to go to Oklahoma.
I'm just
Especially now
saying,
that
yeah.
Oklahoma State is. I don't know what is going to happen to them. I'd actually like to ask you that question. What is going to happen to Baylor, TCU, and
That was
Oklahoma
the
State and
next
Kansas State?
perfect, exactly. I'm cue the Sarah McLaughlin. I will remember you underneath this. Let's just give a
Yeah,
moratorium to the Big 12. It's done. It's done. Big 12's
it's
done. I
done.
love it. I loved it as a gambler. 75-point overs, hammer the
Oh
over.
yeah,
It was electric. Crack
every
a few
time.
beers. Just Mason Rudolph lighting you up every single day.
Oh yeah,
Justin Blackman, all those guys. Like
man.
I love that. Patrick Mahomes used to win me so much money.
Oh,
Now he's
dude,
the
when he
bane
was
of
at
my
Tech.
exit.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, now
Oh
he's the
yeah.
bane of my existence. I hate him.
Ooh, I'm sorry.
But nonetheless, no, he won me money. I used to just I put a money line over LSU. I love the Big 12. I love it so much. It's soft conference, but it's going to end up basically merging with another soft conference, the Pac-12, which will become the Pac-16, like you were saying. I think.
I think somewhat. I don't think the Pac-12 is going to pick up Baylor or TCU.
No.
They're going to go to the AAC, I think, because they have a non-religious affiliation. It's the same reason why Brigham isn't in the Pac-12. It doesn't have anything to do with why Brigham isn't good enough. Brigham is a power opponent.
They would compete. Yeah.
As someone that was just in Utah a month ago, that's a football state. Don't let anyone tell you
Samoans, bro. They got the Samoans.
Yeah,
They're so like there's three schools that get Samoans: Oregon, USC, Cal a little bit, and then Utah and Brigham. So maybe four schools.
Yeah,
like
Utah and Brigham kind of split them a little bit, but the Utes
yeah.
not as much. But Brigham gets a shit ton of them. I remember that game against Memphis a few years ago where they got in the helmet to helmet combat. That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
Those Mormons will swing on you, bro. Like they will swing on you. And they got a number 2 overall pick in the draft last year of Zach. Yep. I mean, it's like that.
Exactly.
No, you're right. So anyways, go on. You're talking about
so
Pac-12 or maybe Pac-16.
Potentially Pac-16. The reason why they didn't take Boise for so long is because Boise's academics weren't like up to snuff, right?
Yeah, they can't even spell Boise. They spell B-O-Y.
Well, here's my thing about that though.
Boise.
If you're the Pac-12 and you're arguing we're not going to take Boise State because of their academics, then I need you to explain to me Washington State University.
Facts. Ryan Leaf. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm no Ryan Mallett when it comes to the Scantron, but
you know how to set an alarm clock.
Yeah, I can wake up. But no, I mean, you can't argue about academics when you have Arizona State, Washington State in your conference.
Facts.
I mean,
that's just STD.
Oregon too. Yeah. Let's be real here. I mean, Oregon is not the sharpest tool in the shed, but Boise's academics actually have been reaccredited in the past few years, and they're relisted in the top 120 now. Boise State's doing great, but they're an agricultural school, right?
Yeah.
So Boise State, I think they're gonna. There was something I saw, and I hate to even admit this publicly, but like I'm on Reddit every now and again, and
it's fine.
Yeah, because
safe space.
I'm having a Reddit moment.
Yeah.
And but I only use the college football subreddit.
Those are good. Those are good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, because they're really on top of their shit, especially for like quick leaks. Because I don't want to be like on Twitter terminally online, even though I am, and I don't want to admit it to anyone. My wife knows it. Whatever.
All right.
And but the college football subreddit the other day, I was just reading through the comments, and a guy was like, "Yeah, Boise State didn't renew their media contract with the what is it, the Mountain West that they're in?
Mountain West. It's the WAC. It used to be the WAC, and the WAC merged with the Mountain West. Yeah,
that's right. They didn't renew their contract after 2023. They've opted to leave it on the table. So to me, I'm saying, okay, you've got 2 seasons left. You didn't renew your contract for the media? That's the same thing that the Longhorns and OU just did.
Fair.
Something tells me there's a move there, right? And I think if I look at the Pac-12, I say, okay, who could you pick? Well, you're going to pick up Texas Tech. Texas Tech is not going to get left in the red dirt. That's just not going to happen. Because the Red Raiders control, I mean, Texas is solidly burnt orange for the most part. But when you cut it into slices and you say, okay, well, A&M controls the Houston market for the most part, way more than Rice or Houston do, right?
Yeah.
They control the Houston market. Texas is kind of North Texas to Central Texas, San Antonio, big Longhorns town. I mean, there's 5 million people in San Antonio. They're huge down there. And then you look at West Texas and West Texas is solidly guns up. I mean, they are Red Raider country by far.
Mm,
So they're good. And a lot of people say, well, what television market they bring? Lubbock, El Paso,
yeah.
Albuquerque, New
Yeah,
Mexico.
UTEP's not doing shit.
No,
Yeah.
no, New Mexico State. Come off of
Yeah,
it. No, that's
exactly.
Red Raider country for football purposes. So they're going to pick up T Tech. That's fine. I could
Oklahoma State, I think, is guaranteed to go to the Pac whatever, Pac-12.
maybe.
Where though?
I'm not.
Where do you put them?
That's the problem, is because how can you justify having, and I know West Virginia, right? But like, how can you as the Pac-12 justify having a team that's basically in Arkansas in the Pacific Conference? I mean, Texas Tech makes sense because Texas Tech is closer to San Diego than it is Dallas, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that's fine. But you're going to take Stillwater, Oklahoma? That's not anywhere near the Pacific. I know that
No,
would be like
but
pulling
is
a West Virginia.
Oklahoma? I mean, Oklahoma's gonna have to play Florida, maybe. You know what I mean? Like that's that.
I actually see them going to the AAC.
So, I'm sorry. I'm just saying the Oklahoma Sooners
Oh,
are going to have to play Florida, like, or
yeah,
against
that's
teams like
fair.
that.
Yeah,
I just think look,
the SEC needs to change.
the
their
SEC
name.
is doing imperialism on the
Oh
United
yeah,
States,
it's
so
pure.
teams are gonna have to travel more. So,
Oh yeah,
like you
absolutely.
even said with recruiting,
They
they're
want
going to
to do
steal all
love
the
it.
Midwestern recruits. They're going to steal
Oh
the
yeah.
non-Big Ten guys, like and so I think you're going to see. So who else could I see out of the Big 12 going to the West? Like I think you're right. Texas Tech. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
gonna happen.
I think it's going to happen. I think it's Oklahoma State. We'll put the. That'll be.
I could
We'll leave that to the. We'll see who's right. We'll see who's right about that one.
I could say Okie State could go either way.
Hmm.
But if I'm Oklahoma State, you've got the AAC that's coming up now. The AAC is pushing themselves to say we're going to be a power conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because really, at the end of the day, they kind of are. You got UCF, you've got Cincinnati, you've got Memphis. I believe is Houston
It's pretty
also in
good.
that conference.
Yes,
That's a pretty stacked,
pretty good.
conference. I mean,
It's good. That's a good
UCF
call.
is hell shit. UCF went what 36-0.
Yeah, they pretended they won a national title. It was crazy.
I would have put them on the field against Bama at least and see how it went. I mean,
Ass whooping.
it would have been an ass whipping, but
It would have been the same thing as Notre Dame. It would have been the same thing. Yeah. And Notre Dame went to Oklahoma and beat Oklahoma that year in Norman. Yeah. They had better wins. I'm sorry. I cannot. I like UCF. I got no problem. I'm a big Mackenzie Milton fan. I like the way they play. But every time they do that shit, it's like, look, you guys were really good. Just admit that. It's fine. It's okay.
You're good. You're not. I mean, you're talking about Bama is at a level now where they're a minor league NFL team fundamentally. I mean, you look at the way that their operations are. Nick Saban has had them rolling now for 12 years, I think. I mean, shit, the numbers of recruits they're producing. They've had 3 Heisman winners, I believe. 3 Heisman winners. Throughout the history of Alabama, throughout the Bear, everybody else, they never won a Heisman. Nick Saban comes in, they've had 3 Heismans in 12 years. That's basically one every 4 years now.
And so what I will say is, before we move on to the athletes getting paid, the meat of the conversation, before I move on, last question about Bama. Is this realignment? Is this to knock down Bama a little bit, to maybe have this powerhouse school like Texas in the SEC? Whether they play each other a lot, it could be a championship game that they play each other. But like if Texas gets back, right, to the Vince Young days, to the Cedric Benson days, if they get back to that, even the Colt McCoy days, if they get back to that,
even the Colt
like it's not, they're not that far removed. We hate on them a little more because they were so high and they were such a powerhouse. But like is this to maybe be like, because I mean, it's not going to be Auburn, Bo Nix, come on. But who's gonna knock off Bama? Is it maybe just like, look, let's bring in these other 2 things, give them that SEC recruiting pathway that they've been missing, because their conference is so weak now. Is that to knock down Bama, or at least attempt to, right? Because you don't want Clemson there, because you want a national title more. So you want that Clemson Alabama national title thing still there, I think. Yeah. So I wouldn't. Go ahead.
To answer that question, yes. I think in a lot of ways, because now that the college football playoff is moving to what, 12? Are they moving to 12 teams now?
There's rumored. Saban was not happy with it. He was on First Take the other day. Did not like it, but yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not in favor of 12 either. I'm in favor of 8.
I love 8. I love 8.
8 is perfect. You can give number 1, number 2 a bye during the New Year's 6 bowls. Let them play after. Actually give the bowl games fucking meaning would be great.
Yeah.
Because sorry, I love the Rose Bowl. I love the Rose Bowl. I love the Cotton Bowl.
Great game.
They've killed the meaning of it. ESPN
sucks, dude.
Right? Yeah. Thank you, dude. I was at the Oregon Florida State Rose Bowl back in the first year of the college football playoff. I was there. Right? I went to that game.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Fantastic game.
because at that point I had stopped playing college football, and I was actually living out in Oregon at that time, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this game, and I went, and it was like, great, I'm seeing a Pac-12 team in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. This sucks because they're playing fucking Florida State and shameless Jameis. Are you kidding me?
Crab legs, man.
What the hell does crab legs and Florida State have to do with the Rose Bowl? Anyway, moving on. So to answer that question about Texas, I think yes, because I think the SEC needs. Everyone says, "Well, remember, Texas needs the SEC. The SEC does not need you." I don't think so.
I think you're right.
Because if you look at the arguments from all of the other conferences, it's been Texas, and then Texas is, or not Texas, excuse me, it's been Bama, and Bama's cucks for the past 12 years, basically. And that's not wrong. I mean, yeah, you had the Auburn seasons twice with Cam, and then
Georgia teases you a little bit.
Georgia is the greatest edging of all schools in existence. They edge hard, but they're never going to get there. I mean, they're the greatest disappointment in all of college football, if somebody asks me, just point blank.
Right. I think you're right.
Because how can you, as Georgia, you control that state. Georgia Tech is a secondary thought in most people's minds, if even. And you've got the greatest recruiting base, not Texas, right? In Georgia, you've got Florida, you've got South Carolina, Alabama, the Mississippis are there, Tennessee is there, Georgia, where the greatest running backs of all time have all come out of us ever. I think Alday Peterson's the only one that didn't come from Georgia, and maybe Darren McFadden if we're going to argue college. But moving on,
I will. I'm with you.
How many natties do y'all have? You've got one. You've got one Heisman winner and one natty, and they were 40 years ago.
Yeah, you had the guy win twice.
I need some explanation.
Yeah, you had one guy win twice.
yeah. So, like, how are you going to explain that to say we've got the greatest recruiting hotbed of all time and we've only ever won one national championship?
Yeah, and how do you fathom? How do you okay? Well, say what you will about competition breeds the best and everything. There's no way you're going to tell me JT Daniels is better than Justin Fields. There's just no way. There was no way. That's bad personnel management. You could have won the national title last year if you had Justin Fields.
Yeah, absolutely. And you didn't do it. And it's the same thing. Mark Richt did it. Kirby Smart's doing it. They all fall into the same trap of. Did you ever watch the show True Blood?
I did. Yeah, I did. Actually.
Okay, so there's a quote that I love to apply to Georgia. One of the seasons, I don't remember which one. The sheriff Andy, I think was his name, was talking to Jason Stackhouse, and at one point, Andy says, "I need you to stop thinking. Head off, dick on." Right, and so. Georgia falls in this trap of dick off head on. They overthink everything and they micromanage the shit out of their team. They've always done this, and that's why they fail. That's why they fail every goddamn time. They almost did it to themselves, almost losing to Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl a few years ago, right?
Yeah, that's right.
They almost micromanaged themselves to death in that game, and they do it against Bama every time.
And I mean the game they blew against Bama. I mean, like the title game.
Blew the title game away.
They
entirely.
had that game in the bag.
Yeah. I mean, it was in the bag. Anyway, back to Texas. It's been known that like it's been Bama and their 11 other or 12 other, how many? 13 other cuckolds, right? And all of the rest of the SEC, as Bama's winning the national title every year. Like, yeah, but you didn't fucking do that.
Yeah. And that'd be like me claiming the AFC West when Kansas City's been winning all the time. Like, it's like, okay, well, I'm not winning. It doesn't matter.
That's why the SEC chant is like even as a former SEC player, that is the dumbest damn thing on the planet. I am never in my life going to pull for Alabama. Are you kidding me? They whipped our ass 53-0 a few years back. Go to hell.
I'll actively root against you. Yeah.
I will actively root against your ass. I hope OU rapes you. No, I'm kidding. I don't like to use the term rape, but
it'll be consensual, but still,
it would be a consensual. But looking at Texas and OU, I think Bama needs that because Bama needs some actual competition at this point, not just for on the football field, but also in marketing. When you look at every SEC branding for really since Nick Saban got there, Alabama has always been included. You had the couple of seasons with LSU, you had the couple of seasons with Auburn. Kind of a little bit with Florida. Florida's been like a nipple tease ever since Tim Tebow left.
Absolutely.
They're not going to do anything. Florida's not doing shit. Bama needs that because really at the end of the day, when it comes time for Nick Saban to leave, it will happen, right? I mean, time ages us all, and hell, even the Mona Lisa is falling apart. Bama will die off, and when they die off, the entire SEC is going to feast on that body. right? And the whole country is going to go, aha, see, the SEC is not very good. Bama's sitting there at 4-8 this year, and it will happen eventually. So what do you do in that situation? Well, at least this way you're going to have Texas, OU, maybe an Arkansas resurgent at that point, or an LSU resurgent. Ole Miss is going to be Ole Miss. I think they reached their pinnacle under Hugh Freeze. I don't think that what's his name, Lane Train. I don't think the Lane Train's going to do much for them.
Lane.
I love Joey Freshwater, but I do not think that he's going to be able to take them to the top of that mountain.
No, not at all. And well, there's one thing that I disagree with the last thing that you said is that this is going to be really bad. I think Nick Saban's harvesting child organs, so I don't think he's ever going to retire. He's creating a thing called adrenochrome, if you ever heard of it. And
sitting there with Hillary Clinton just sucking a baby.
You brought up True Blood. He's that. So and so he's going to be around forever. Unfortunately, just like Belichick. Belichick's shipment's been late. That's why they missed the playoffs last year. But he missed the year. Tom used to be his connect. He found a new connect. We're good. But
hey, I'll tell you, if for future reference on this one, and I've been kind of harboring this idea for a long time. I'll tell you who the replacement coach is going to be for Nicky whenever he does inevitably become the athletic director or the director of the SEC, whichever it's going to happen, right? He's going to be a lot like what was that Wisconsin coach's name? Barry Alvarez.
Yeah,
I think he's going to take a caretaker role for the conference at that point. But next coach at Alabama is going to be Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, no, and I've heard that rumor because that's where he always wanted to be. He was an assistant. He used to wipe Nick Saban's windshield and shit when he was
he used to play there under the Bear.
That's right.
So but I also don't think that Alabama will continue their dominance with Dabo because I think Dabo has something very special at Clemson.
He shouldn't do it.
He shouldn't do it. He should not. But you're never going to say no. It's the same reason why. What's his name? He left. He left UCF and went to Nebraska. Scott Frost. Scott Frost.
God, yeah, Scott Frost.
Scott Frost went to Nebraska. It's a disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster. It's going to continue to be an unmitigated disaster because you're in the same conferences, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. But he left UCF, and he had something really special there. Isn't UCF's coach Gus Malzahn now, or is that SF?
Or no, I think that's SF. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, it could be either. But no, you're right. Dabo, that would remind me of in basketball, Shaka Smart leaving Virginia Commonwealth and going to Texas. You're like, why did you do it?
Why? Why the fuck would you do that? You had something great going.
Yeah, Brad Stevens ever leaving Butler, like just things like that. Like you could just take the Indiana job if you're going to do that. Like just what is the point? Like
what's the point?
You're just going to be like this lame edgelord in the Boston Celtics, and you have to win titles there. You have to win titles.
And Boston expects them every 4 years, right?
Yes, exactly.
In some capacity. If the Pats ain't doing it, then by God, the Sox better do it. And if the Sox ain't doing it, Celtics, you're up.
Exactly.
Because the Bruins, they're right behind you. So with Alabama needing that, I think eventually it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen by the end of this decade where Nick Saban just kind of moves on to being the caretaker of the conference.
Yeah.
And Dabo is going to take that job. Bama's going to plummet. And by then, we're literally going to be living under the dominance of OU, Texas, and maybe, I'm going to get myself in trouble on this one. Tennessee.
Wow,
I think Tennessee's going to take, because I don't think, what's his name? Was Brian Harsin? Is he the one that just took over the Auburn job?
I believe so, yes.
Way over his head. He's in way over his head.
Yeah, that's not going to go. And you have a quarterback that's we're actually going to talk about him in a little bit, but you have a quarterback that is you have basically a Ford Pinto version of Cam Newton, and it just doesn't work. Yeah,
it's not going to work. Let's go and move on to the NIT.
Let's move on.
I don't want to have to hold you on all day.
Not a problem. So, anyways, we are getting into this. This is the college athletes. Our college athletic work is work, right? That's what we like to say. They're not.
I can back that up.
We turned them into OnlyFans people. Finally, they're allowed to make money. They're not street walking anymore.
Thank God.
This is college athletes can now use their name to make money, right? That's just a simple way, layman's terms. There's a lot of, senator this, senator that said this. I don't even think we need to get into that. This is something that people were asking for a long time. Now, I've always thought this should be a thing. I believe you're the same way. I've always thought you should be able I thought the salary system would be weird, and maybe we can get into that later. Like a salary system, it's tough to do. It's tough to do. Now, one thing that really red pilled me on this, or at least got me into thinking about, wow, they're fucking these college kids over, is Ohio State. Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor had to serve an NFL suspension for 4 games. It was my team that he was on, so that's why I knew. Because he signed autographs. And I think he had like a tattoo or something. Like somebody paid for like a tattoo that he got at Ohio State. And
so, like, a little backstory here. That was the last game for me with Arkansas.
No shit.
Was versus Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. That was my last game.
Dude, he was a unit, man. Terrell Pryor.
Oh God. Dude, that game was insane, by the way. I just want to point that out.
For shit, but he was
couldn't throw worth a shit. Dude, the interception there at the end of the game. I will say this: Ohio State should literally have a little statue of Ryan Mallett in their house thanking their asses, because that was the first time they ever beat an SEC opponent.
Damn.
Interception in the end zone when you had Nile Davis. It was literally the equivalent of, remember when the Seahawks played the Pats in the Super Bowl and they didn't run Marshawn Lynch, even though it was like 2nd down and 2 from the goal line with 20 seconds? Okay. Same thing happened with us. We're all saying on the sidelines, Jericho Nelson just got a huge turnover, ran it back to like the fucking 4-yard line, right? Instead of just taking it into the end zone, he like jumped down. Nobody really knew why he did that. And Ryan Mallett, it's like 46 seconds left, and Ryan Mallett on 1st and goal from the 4-yard line throws an interception.
Yeah. Well, that's an all-time tall quarterback game too. Pryor versus Mallett. Yeah. Jesus.
How tall was Pryor?
Pryor was at least 6'6". I think he was 6'5", 6'6", because he ended up being like a contested catch wide receiver for the Browns after they converted him.
That's right.
And he had 11 touchdowns. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Terrell Pryor. He just got into like a bad accident and he's hurt really bad. And he got stabbed last year. The man is down bad.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, he got stabbed last year. Somebody like a home invasion. I didn't know that. Stabbed him, and then I believe he just got in like some kind of accident. Yeah, I think he's gonna be all right. But it's like, damn, dude, down bad.
Yeah,
I've always loved the guy. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I met him. He's a great dude.
So
hard out to
yeah, TP man, TP. I loved him. And so the kids getting paid, man. These kids are getting paid now. Now what I'm seeing out of a lot of this right now is it's not even like they're getting paid for their services. Like these kids are like, oh, this is my TikTok account. If you want to give me like a fucking Bang Energy for, and I'll dance with like a Bang Energy, like, with my 75,000 followers, and you can give me some money. Like Bo Nix is doing that right now, which if you're Bo Nix, secure the bag now. Trust me, it's not coming later.
You're not getting drafted. You're not getting drafted.
The opposition to it. I just listened to Mac Brown on PFF the other day. Mac Brown, good old Mac Brown, UNC, actually doing a nice job over there. But nonetheless, and he brought up a valid point. This was like his way of like basically like, I'm against it, but you guys don't know what you're talking about, because how many people are truly going to make money off of this? How many athletes are going to make money per school? We can't, Alabama's an outlier. We can't use them because they're going to have like 10, 15 guys making money. But like, it's like 3 to 4 per like major school, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to use Arkansas as the example, right? Because that's my university, despite not living there anymore. Shout out to the Hogs again, Woo Pig. But you look at the Razorbacks right now. Who do you have? You have Treylon Burks, who might be the best wide receiver you haven't heard of, by the way, in the SEC.
Okay, Treylon Burks, write it down.
Treylon Burks, write it down, because that kid is going to have a hell of a season.
Okay,
I'm going to go ahead and predict 20 touchdowns.
20?
That kid's insane.
Okay.
6'5" wide receiver. Check out his stats. I'll send them over to you after the show.
I've heard some buzz. I'm with you. Yeah,
dude, hog hunts, by the way. So you've got him, maybe a couple of other the wide receivers, and Grant Morgan, right? I think there actually is the first SEC NIL contract was an Arkansas wide receiver. I don't remember which one, but he got a contract with PetSmart.
That's sick.
Yeah, so he's like gonna have like dog food now. I think it's gonna be called Hog Chow or something. But that was the first contract in the SEC, right? So you might end up. I could look at like out of those, they're gonna be the like team captains, right? Is you've got the linebacker, a couple of wide receivers, maybe in a center or something, right? 2 of them, maybe 3, right? LSU, 1 or 2. Right, Texas A&M, 1 or 2. The quarterback and their big boasting wide receiver, as per usual. I could see OU having 5 or 6, just because OU is in a similar position. A lot of people don't like to do this. I like to compare OU a lot to Bama because they're really the only show in town. Yes, there's Auburn and Oklahoma State.
There's no pro sports.
There's no pro sports in the cities. There's they dominate the football channels throughout that entire state, and the other schools are always going to be playing second pony. OU, they both work Crimson, you know.
I'm sorry, I'm putting on the try. I'm putting Trey
Knox.
Oh
no, you're good.
Yeah, I'm putting him on.
Yeah,
there.
Trey Knox. Yeah, there he is.
How beautiful that is. Pet Smart deal. That's pretty sweet. There you go.
Yeah, we love that. You know, and first, I mean, of all the things, right? Dog chow. But you know, looking at OU, I could see OU because they run the state of Oklahoma so much. Maybe 5 or 6 players that are really going to make some actual money on this. And then everybody else is going to be like their star player because everybody has a star player except for Vanderbilt. So I'm not even going to laugh at that one because it's true.
Yeah,
but
but I'm a baseball guy, so I'll hold it down for Vandy. But
Now on other sports,
yeah.
Shit. Now when you talk about other sports, it's going to be all over the place. You're going to have Villanova making money. You're going to have, you know, Georgetown, etc. They're all going to make money now.
Well, even so, football. I was thinking about this, like, because I'm scrolling this thing. So it was 16 athletes that are already making money off this shit, and like a lot of them are from like podunk towns, and I like that a lot because the small business car dealership. Hey, you're not going to even get drafted in the NFL, but everybody loves you in this town at Marshall or something like that. Like just in West Virginia, like, hey, coming out of my car dealership, I'll pay a $1,000 today. You know what I mean? Like just to go do this. I think that's beautiful personally. And like when Mac Brown's also criticism was like, yeah, and then, you know, what's it going to do when kids on your team, it's not a level playing field anymore because, you know, maybe like you said, you played a little third string ball. How would you feel if you know, you saw 4 or 5 guys getting paid on your team, like to do whatever? Like, would you be jealous at all, or would you be happy?
I mean, because you know, we talk about you and I. What really started this conversation was in the comments, right?
Yeah.
And as a guy that played, I will tell anyone, it is a grueling existence to be a college athlete in the ways that you don't. If you're not getting that bag from the bag man, and every school has them, right? Nobody's Lily White.
That's that you can attest to that being true. Okay.
Nobody's Lily White. I will say this: I never saw anything at Arkansas, and that's not just because they're my school, but literally, I never saw anything there. I never heard tale of that ever. It was not Free Shoes University, as Steve Spurrier would put it, right? Or SC.
Free Shoes University. That's a good one. I even heard that one. Yeah.
Oh, you never heard that? Oh, yeah, dude.
FSU. I'm like in my head, FSU.
Dude,
yeah.
Google when Steve Spurrier called him Free Shoes University.
I love Steve Spurrier. I love Steve Spurrier.
Love Steve Spurrier. But the life of a college athlete is grueling. And then if you leave the team, or if you get an injury to a point where you cannot continue, and let's say you didn't take out team insurance, or the team did not take insurance out on you, because that does happen, right? And a lot of them do take them out. Looking at Marcus Lattimore in South Carolina, right? At that kid,
I'm still not over that. I'm still not.
No, I mean, he never will be. I mean, shit, his legs are basically, you know, backwards at this point. Horrible what happened to him. But when you look at what happens to a lot of athletes when you do get out on that field, maybe you break your shoulder, you can't tackle anymore.
Right.
You know, there was a kid at Arkansas a few years ago, running back. I don't remember what his name was. I don't know what his financial situation is, but he basically broke his neck against Auburn. Right. It was just in the fourth quarter. I can't remember that kid's name, but a lot of teams don't take out insurance on you. If you don't have insurance on yourself, you know, you want to continue that education, right? So you probably stay at the school, but you don't have that scholarship money anymore. And I'm going to walk the viewers, listeners.
Are you talking about Raleigh Williams?
Raleigh Williams. Yeah, dude. He was a hell beast on the field until Auburn
I remember Raleigh
damn near
Williams.
killed him. Yeah, he was a great player. And I'm going to walk you guys through the day of an athlete in college, right? You wake up at 4:30 in the morning, okay? You shit, shower, shave, eat breakfast, right? Maybe grab a quick protein or something like that. Do some studying while you're eating. Go to the gym, you got your pre-workouts, right? Then by the time you're done with pre-workouts, you've got video by 8 a.m. You do 8 a.m. to 9:30 video and meetings with your team. Then you go to class, right? And classwork, and I'm looking at my notes here because I have my old notes right here from when I was in college. This was everyday thing. 9 a.m. to 11:30 I was in class.
Mm-hmm.
Then from 11:45 to 1 p.m. I took lunch/class. So I was eating my lunch while taking classwork.
Nice.
Um, at 2:30 in the afternoon, had re-meetings, basically going back and watching video and film. Then at 3:45 I was in the weight room until 6. Um, on Mondays and Tuesdays. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, that was practice time, and that practice time continued from 3:45 till 7 p.m. So you're talking about
why
a
don't you get a
12-hour
damn
day.
job if you want to make some money?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So
I love
yeah,
that.
no, I mean, so what the hell are you supposed to do for
Yeah.
cash? Because if you're not an all-star, you're not out there, you're not a 5-star recruit, you're
Right.
not getting the scholarship money that people think. And so if you get injured, you're fucked. Because here you are, you're in the midst of college, you're so close to the end of your diploma, you might as well go ahead and finish and fuck yourself if you end up having to get a master's degree. And you end up having to take out all of these student loans, and there's no forgiveness, there's no moving for that, there's none of that.
No, there sure isn't.
Yeah. And so you ended up with a lot of us guys, and I can name off the top of my head right now, me from the SEC / the other conference, it shall not be named. A couple of boys from the Big 12 that I know, right? One of my buddies from the Big 12, he played at Kansas State, right? He is working at a call center in Springfield, Missouri, making $9 an hour. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I worked with a guy at temping at a warehouse out here, and his name was Brandon Carswell from USC, and he was like a pretty solid wide receiver at USC, practice squad for the Raiders a little bit, and he's just like, well, here I am. Yeah, here I am with my no benefits and nothing. Yeah,
you get nothing. Your body sucks. I mean, I wake up every day and I have to sling my shoulder. There it goes. Back into place a little bit. Yeah. Broken 4 times, so you talk about like that's your daily grueling activity. And then when you move on from that and you say, okay, well, I'm going to go now from fall ball, it continues. It's a nonstop grind. The only time you get downtime is during the month of June and July.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got OTAs, basically, you've got summer training and things like that. So you've got all these camps you're having to work through. You get 2 months a year where you maybe can have a job, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that's considering if you're not in a fraternity. If you've got any type of social life at all, maybe you want a girlfriend or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, I wasn't on a full ride, Houston Nutt didn't give me that. And so love that helmet. And still have it up on my wall up there. But that's your daily activity. And then if you get wrecked by injury, whatever, you don't get drafted, you're fucked. Congratulations. Enjoy your $70,000 of student loan debt, because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then to top it off, if you're a student athlete and you haven't been able to build up credit during this time, this is actually from a course that I took at my secondary one, right? Student athletes end up with the worst credit scores of all college students by the end of it, because they weren't able to build credit during that time because they didn't have a job. So they weren't able to get like small credit cards and things like that. You've got a lot of guys coming from inner cities and rural areas, right? Whose parents didn't come from a whole lot of means.
Mm-hmm.
Those are your third string, your second string guys, right? And so they came to these areas. Their parents didn't give them a Visa card with a $10,000 maximum limit in their name as a cosigner. These are guys that were, maybe getting a $200 credit card and maxing it out because they had to eat. Now, this was during a time also when meal tickets were not unlimited back then. Nowadays, they're unlimited. Students at Northwestern fought for that in 2013, right? Mm-hmm. That meal tickets would be unlimited. So back then, you were paying for your own food. Imagine being an offensive lineman in 2008, 2009, eating 20,000 calories a day and having to pay for that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and so you end up with these student athletes that are post-student athletes at that point. Their bodies have been wrecked by practice and working out. Yeah, we look great. Not so much on myself anymore, but we look great. But thank you. But you don't end up with the financial side of your life really being settled. And then by the time you get to your 30s, you're racked up with $100,000 of student loan debt, maybe crippling credit card debt, loans that you couldn't pay off. And now you've got a degree that they pushed you to that wasn't worth the shit. My buddy that works in Springfield, right, at a call center. His degree is in leisurely studies. Leisurely studies. What the fuck is that? I was smart enough to at least get, my degrees in economics and things like that. And now I work a great job. But at that time, shit, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I've always thought about is like, why can't, okay, say there's like not slam dunk guys, but like top recruits, guys who are like, my goal is to get to NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever it is. Why can't people major in athletics, man? Like, why can't you major in it? So I guess what I yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is like, there's why can't you just, and when I say major in athletics, it's not like go to practice, fucking sleep all day, go to practice, whatever. Yeah. No problem. Like, but you, like, okay, sports science and medicine. Why can't that be part of your curriculum? Economics, literally economics
should be.
Like that you have an economics class, like, and all that stuff, everything that goes with being a professional athlete, which then you could then say like, okay, look, I didn't make the league. I didn't make anything, but I do have these credits in economic classes. I can go somewhere else. And why can't we do that? Because you make these guys like, look, you get the Justin Herberts, right? The guy's an NFL player, but he's like a fucking molecular biologist. Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is a literal Neanderthal, but he's an architect as well. And Stanford guy. And you have people like that, but not everybody's like that. Some guys from birth have been born to hold a football, have been born to do this. Let them do that in college. You obviously brought them there for that. You didn't bring them there to major in fucking, earth science. You didn't bring them there for that. And I'm not saying that's everybody, right? Because like your case, a guy who didn't see the field as much as those guys, you'd still had to, you knew in your head, like, I got to go do something else. But some of these guys don't, man. Some of these guys don't. And this could get them into like being a trainer somewhere. You know what I mean? Like being an athletic trainer, being a personal trainer, things like that.
The Pac-12 really moves that in a really special way. They do. I actually have to, I joke a lot about the Pac-12. I do love them. But they're really solid about that. Those boys out in Colorado, in Utah, and Arizona specifically, and Oregon State, they're highly intelligent. Stanford as well. They push them to those right directions, right? But you're talking when you move over to the ACC, the Big 12, even the Big 10 a little bit, and the SEC, you got a lot of guys like you said that they were born to play football, baseball. That's all they've ever known. And now they're not going to get to do that by the time they're 24, 25 years old anymore, because that's the end of the road. Let them have a career in this, because coaching's a difficult tree to get into that a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of folks think that, you're a coach and you just start at the high school level and work your way up like Pete Carroll.
Fuck
no. You got to go do grad assistant work. If you're lucky, maybe you get 2 GAs at Memphis or something like that. Somebody notices you. Now you can be like a tight ends 3 coach, right? Where maybe, right?
Yeah, I have a friend who's so his journey's crazy. I went to high school with him. Real awesome guy. Like he's just born to coach football. Like, and I know he's awesome. Still young. He's only 30 right now, and like he's doing well. So like I think he's got a coordinator job now. So I'm awesome. Which is great because like to me, coaching's a long game. Like you might not even get your break till you're 45 or 50. So he's got some. But he started. He was a grad assistant in Oregon. He was there for that title game against Auburn. He was on the sidelines for that, and he went. From there, he went to Southern Alabama, go Jaguars. And then now he's gone to I think he's the D coordinator at Clark Atlanta. Which I mean, that's good. I mean,
that's still something that's
it's
great.
Not a lateral move. Some people will go, okay, you were at Oregon, dude. You were at Oregon. Just stay there. There's no upward mobility there. Like
no.
Look at a coaching tree. Look at Nick Saban. Look at these guys like anybody. Dude, these guys are legends now. They've been everywhere. Everywhere.
Dude, you know who the coolest story is? And I employ anyone to look up Coach O's story.
I love Coach O's story.
Love that dude.
Pounding coleslaw out of a cup every day.
Yeah. Dude, his story is insane. You know what he started out as in the football realm? He's an athletic trainer at Arkansas.
Yeah, he was. All he did, he said he slept in the back of like a barbecue place in Arkansas, and like they used to just give him free coleslaw. So this dude was just pumping iron and just just
drinking coleslaw
and just drinking coleslaw. Probably had the juice on the side as his water, and then was just pounding that. But here's the thing: like those are great stories, but in my head, I'm like, so that's how you do it. You know what I mean? Like it's just got to like it's
in
tough
some cases.
It's tough to do, and like that's what we're saying.
Man.
We're putting these kids behind the 8 ball and saying like, "Hey, Coach O did it." It's like, well, dude,
Well,
first off,
yeah,
not every player is a coach. That's another thing. That's another fallacy.
No.
Ted Williams was like the worst baseball coach of all time.
Oh, easily.
Michael Jordan can't operate a basketball team.
No.
These people suck. Like, actually, typically, is a guy like you, a third string guy, is usually a fucking good coach because he was there with the coach. Yeah,
exactly. You're standing there listening to those calls and you're watching the motions all the time. You know, you're not on the field.
So
you're
that's not a route.
Watching on the sides.
That's not a route. That's not a sustainable route for these athletes, is to go into coaching. There's only so many positions that actually pay too. So then, one thing I will say, one question I have for you is, you're an economics guy. So so what about, and this is kind of like a Marxist thing. So this might sound stupid, and it definitely won't sound good to like Southern football people at all. So
I'm pretty far left economically, by the way. Just
nonetheless, even if you weren't, I just mean there's some good old people like are just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Anyways, so what does an average college football SEC football game like make? You know, the game itself, how much money does that generate? When you talk TV, you talk stands being crowded, you talk
well, if you take
sessions,
so we'll take the average SEC payout from so every SEC team specifically gets the same cut, right? Everybody gets the same cut of
it's Marxist already. Sounds good.
Everybody gets the same, which I think is $35 million a year in the football television cuts. But that's just from the SEC office, right? Every team itself ends up making bukus of cash more. You take, again, I'll use Arkansas as an example, right? Arkansas, if you've got an 80, I think there's 78,000, but really the maximum capacity is like 82. Really, they could squeeze 82,000 butts in those stadiums. It's a huge stadium.
And that other conference that you don't want to name, they got some big stadiums too.
Played in the biggest ones, right? And
gotcha.
So if you look at like just Arkansas as an easy example, you've got 78 to 80,000 seats that you can fill every single Saturday. If you're rolling, they're filled, right? Look at what a ticket sale is now.
Oh yeah, it's a lot.
If you just go to the Razorbacks, like Hog Sports or whatever webpage it is, and you go to pull that up, your average ticket is at bare minimum $400 a ticket, right? So let's say a family
to watch unpaid athletes, by the way.
Yes. So if you take a family, let's just go with a family from Mountain Home, Arkansas, right? Not too far from where I grew up. Mountain Home, Arkansas. The husband's an HVAC guy and the wife does hair for a living, right? And they want to take themselves plus their two kids, Bobby and Cindy Lou, to the game to go see them play Ole Miss, right? You've got $400 a ticket. That's $1,200. But say, oh, you know what, though? We want to go to a couple of games this year, actually, because we're doing pretty well. It's early in the season to be able to buy these tickets. Let's get some season passes, okay? So you get $400. Now, your single game tickets start at $60, but they're going to do the $400 a piece, right? So that's 4 seats. That's $1,200. Then a mandatory Razorback Foundation donation, which I believe is $1,200. So you're making off of just one subset of 4 people. You're talking about at bare minimum $2,200. That's not including your parking pass. That's not including memorabilia. That's not including. Now you multiply that. Let's just go ahead and do the math real quick because I'm a math guy, right? I am an accountant.
Good because I'm not. So I'm glad
you're
doing it.
Yeah, so let's just say 80,000, and we just say everybody in that stadium. No, not everybody. Let's go 60,000, right? 60,000 people, and we just multiplied that by $1,200, right? That is $72 million
per game.
Yes, per game.
Okay, so we've got that. That's actually very similar to the NFL. I believe the NFL. I was looking at that, and that's about 70 million. So we're looking at the same thing. Now you can't.
You have overhead. So
you do, but you don't. If it's the same as the NFL, you don't.
Yeah, you kind of don't.
You kind of don't. I mean, you do. Obviously, you have facilities. You have recruiting. Your roster's bigger. You know what I mean? You have all that. But you don't have the You don't have the overhead that the NFL does. The NFL's got a fucking $20 million quarterback, and so anyways. What
college,
would you say?
I mean, you've got some things that are you would have like the security staff and things like that that you have to pay for.
Absolutely.
Of course, but you don't have to pay for refs.
No,
unless you're Auburn, and then you're paying your
the
refs.
conference pays for the refs, correct?
They pay for the refs, exactly.
Yeah,
the
okay,
conference pays for the refs. They're professional refs. They're not volunteers. They are professionals, right?
Some people might think they were volunteers. Some of those calls, you know what I'm saying?
Some of them maybe.
Yeah.
Hey Auburn, how you doing?
Yeah.
So so you've got that, security staff, things like that, but that's also not including the rental space in the stadium for Chick-fil-A, for Pizza Hut. How much money are you making from Pepsi every single season? Or Arkansas again switched over from Coca-Cola to Pepsi. I don't even know how much money that was. How much money is your endorsement with Nike worth every season?
Yeah,
all that. Look
at Oregon. Yeah, Oregon feeds off that. Yeah,
and that's literally their feast.
Yeah. So I ask all that to say this. What about a slotted revenue thing for players? So you played on the team, right? Maybe you didn't get snap time. I'm not even talking about that, but your roster spot means something, right? You are, I don't know what position you are. Let's say guard number 4, left guard number 4 on the depth chart, right? What if it's just like, okay, this guy got like $200 for this game? You know what I'm saying? Got $200. Now the quarterback's making $700 a game, $800 a game. I'm saying it doesn't have to be something egregious, right? But like your overhead's not that high. So what I'm saying is, could you see something being built off of, instead of these guys, instead of like the libertarian, you're your own business guy that we're doing right now in college football? Could you see that transitioning into like a slotted pay thing where, no, it wouldn't work for every school. Like the guy at Rice is not going to fucking, I mean, I'm just saying for major conferences, Power 5, let's say Power 5, could you see a slotted thing from the 70 million?
I think that's going to happen. Yeah.
Oh, you think so? Okay. And you think everybody on the roster is going to get a? Okay.
Oh yeah. Once the Power 5, really, let's call it Power 4, because there's not the Big 12 is 100%. Right? So it's Power 4 now. Once the Power 4,
okay. I can't put it in there because of copyright, but it's gonna
be. It'll be in there. So once the Power 4 moves on with the 6 independents or so, or what have you, you're going to be looking at approximately 60 some odd teams, right? Those 60 odd teams, they're going to break off from the NCAA is going to die for football purposes. Whatever the NCAA has its claws in so deep with basketball and baseball and other athletics, those aren't going anywhere. The NCAA is still going to be able to maintain control over those. But really, the Power 4 for football purposes is going to be a minor league football program, right? So pay them. Yeah, I think that's absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be part of the recruiting pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and also you could what this does for recruiting, because like you said, I'm glad you brought this up, and we'll end on this because we've been going kind of long. My fault, because when I talk sports, I spurg out hard. So same. So anyway,
hey, you want to have me on again? We'll talk.
You're coming on during the season. You're my college football guy. You're my Paul Feinbaum for me. Like you're just And so
listen here, Colin Cowturd.
You're Paul Feinbaum now. So anyways, it's exactly what I think could happen. I think this actually hurts teams like Alabama.
Absolutely.
It actually hurts the big schools, because if I found out, okay, if you slotted that revenue pay, you slotted the revenue sharing to where it's like, okay, if I go to Alabama, I am left tackle number 3 on the thing. But if I go to fucking, Kansas or Kansas State and I'm starting left tackle there, bam, I'm making more money. And look, I'm at a school that still NFL scouts go everywhere. They're going to find you if you're good. Yeah, now they've pretty much perfected scouting at this point now. And you're going to still get the eyes on you. I think it levels the playing field. People keep saying Mac Brown's argument, it doesn't hold the weight that I think it doesn't
hold water to me, because
it doesn't hold the water because he's like, oh, it's going to ruin the game. I'm like, I disagree. I think it levels the playing field more.
I mean, it ruins the idea that this is going to be. So the beauty of college athletics was always, it is temporary. When you go to the NFL, you're what was it, The Sopranos? You're a made man, right? When you get to the NFL, you're a made man. You're untouchable. You're making $30 million a year contracts. It's crazy endorsement shit like that. But in college, it's temporary. It's beautiful. It's only for 4 years, and once you've got those 4 years, you're done. You'll always be a legend at that school, or you'll be a chin, one of the two. But you're always going to be something to that school, right? So that's going to go. But it absolutely levels the playing field, because all of a sudden now Bama can't. It's the same ticket today, except it involves true money. If you go to a recruit and say, I'm a scout for Ole Miss, because we love Ole Miss with the dollar signs. So if you're a scout for Ole Miss and you go to this boy in Biloxi, Mississippi, and say, hey, look, here's the deal, Jadavion. You can go to Alabama. You're gonna be on that bench for 3 years as a running back. You might get the reps in. You might show some promise against Georgia Southern in a game or UAB, and then you might get that starting position finally your senior year. Right? Great. How would you like to come to Ole Miss and start against their asses for 4 straight years and whip them up and down the field?
Oh.
And for a lot of boys, that's a huge selling point, especially those cusp 3 and 4 stars. Right? I was a 2-star, so I know that feeling. Mm-hmm. Right? I very, very few offers for me. Tulsa, Arkansas, Missouri State, and University of Central Arkansas. Right? Those were and weirdly William and Mary, but don't know where that one came from, but they did.
Hey, Mike Tomlin, shout out Mike Tomlin.
Shout out Mike Tomlin.
Stars come from there. Yeah,
that's right. And so the shout out to the tribe. When you look at these players, that's a huge selling point for a lot of them, is to say, hey, look, if you want to come to Arkansas, you want to come to Ole Miss, you want to come to Oklahoma State or Kansas State or even Kansas, you're going to play. You're going to get playing time in for 4 straight years as long as you last. As long as you want to be there, what you're going to get out of this is what you're putting into it. At Bama, not so much. If you're a 5-star at Bama, you're pretty much already a pre-made NFL player, right? Mm-hmm. You're talking about an 18-year-old kid with the body of a 30-year-old athlete that's been trained and all this other shit. When you're a 5-star recruit, you're basically already an NFL player, right? And you just haven't finished puberty yet. And so you're only going to get bigger and tougher and stronger. Sure. And so there's nowhere else. There's no mobility. So when you go to a place like Bama, you're going to ride that bench for 3 seasons, maybe 4, right? Mm-hmm. That's it. When you involve money in that and you say, hey, look, like you said, you want to come to Kansas and make $1,200 a game?
Yeah.
Shit. Sign me up.
Absolutely.
And I think they deserve to be paid. I don't necessarily know if there should be, because at that point we can't call them amateur athletes anymore. So really the universities, you're going to get into some situations where these are university employees at that point. We'll see how the legislation shakes out on the next decade.
Yeah.
I think really the sport that's going to be the most difficult, football is going to be easy, right? And we can talk football all damn day.
Yeah,
right?
I can.
I eat, sleep, breathe, drink. If my wife ever has to tell me to shut up, it's literally about college football.
Absolutely.
Right? I love the shit. Mm-hmm. But the most difficult sport's going to be basketball. That's going to be the one where you're going to say, how do you quantify players? If you are a booster, right? How can you quantify paying a kid at Cal Central State $1,200 to play 34 games, right? I mean, that system is going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with than football, where you only have 16 games.
Yeah,
right.
And so that's fair.
Yeah, I think
strictly
basketball,
for football. I think our conversation really only applies to football. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I only think that my point was to say I think that this is only going to apply to football.
Sure.
Football is going to become not a non-amateur minor league farming system.
And it is, because it is.
I mean, it already is. Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So I will say this. My last thing, because I know one person, I was talking to one guy about this, and he was kind of opposed. He goes, okay, but what about other students, right? Because there are students of schools, non-athletes, that generate money for their schools. There are people in the medical department, right? There are people studying all that. And they're like, why don't I get paid? And I say, you know what? You should.
Yeah, you should.
You literally should. If you perform surgery on a human being and the person charges that person money, and we can get into healthcare decision, whatever. But if you we charge people for surgeries here in America, you should be paid for it. And this is leverage for you. This is leverage. If the football team's getting paid, I need to get paid. If I'm in the drama department, right, and we're doing a college play, right, where people are out of town, if we're in a downtown university or something, a lot of people come down, we have a historic theater, and I'm doing a play, you should be paid for being in that play.
Absolutely.
You generate money, you should be paid.
My wife was on the athletic staff for a much smaller Texas university.
Sure.
They were still FBS, but she was one of the training staff there. Nice. Right. Dude gets his leg broke. She's the one putting it into place. She wasn't paid a dime. She ended up leaving college with $38,000 of student loan debt for just 3 years of that college, because she started at a JUCO first. Right. Mm-hmm. So she was only there for 3 years, and she ended up with $40,000 worth of student loan debt. But she was there fixing these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Come the fuck on. Pay that girl.
Pay her.
I'm not just saying that because she's my wife. Pay them. Pay people. It's not that hard. It's a full-time job.
Absolutely.
You kidding me? I ran you through that day. That's a 12-hour, not even including game time.
Yeah.
Not even including the game time, which really is 5.5 hours.
Absolutely.
When you talk about all the practices and everything else, that's how many hours a week is that? That's about 80 hours a week, just solely focused on that. Not even including everything else that you have to go through, plus media day appearances, all this other shit. So now screw that, pay him.
Absolutely. On
if you're
that
doing
note,
work, pay him.
If you're doing work, pay him. I agree. Anyways, we're good here. AJ, I really appreciate you doing this. You got to come on during the season. We're going to talk real X's and O's college football matchups. We'll do some real, this is just a little fun economic thing we were doing, but we will go into real sports. This is the first episode of RC Sports. Your plaque will be in the mail. I don't know your address. I'll find it. I'll send you your plaque. I appreciate it. This is a Sunday. We're doing this on the Lord's Day. It's coming out in probably mid this week. So be on the lookout for it. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to keep this on the YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe. And I don't know if you want to be found, but if you want to tell people what you got going on, go ahead.
I'm on Twitter. You'll know me basically as the Lone Ranger on Twitter. I don't have that many followers, but if you know James Healy and all of them, I'm always hanging around that group.
Absolutely.
With Drew and all of them. Otherwise, thank you for having me on, man. And I do want to plug my podcast just real quick. I'm going to plug that bad boy. It's a small podcast, but if you're interested in free fun talk about bullshit, me and my buddy Ryan, we do CPod 2021. Season 2 will start this fall.
Excellent.
So thank you for having me on, man.
Well, good thing about
here more often.
Absolutely. And the good thing about this show is everybody that's subscribed to this channel loves freeform talk about bullshit by default. So absolutely. Anyways, that's it for us, guys. Appreciate it. Everybody have a safe week.
Y'all see